We're recording. You're listening to the Tune Up and Jam podcast. Ready? Go.
Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 28. Catch that, Rich? Episode 28.
Tune Up and Jam.
All right, tune up, turn up, get down and jam. Episode 28. Tune up and jam. Dobro zapraszam.
Oh, that's a difficult one.
Dobro zapraszam.
Okay, one more time.
Dobro zapraszam.
Okay,
Belarusian for welcome.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like that
yeah,
one.
that is a good one. It's similar to Slovak, which is I actually can speak a little bit of that, but it's not the same. It's one of those Slavic languages.
Yeah,
Very similar. All those Eastern European and Russian languages.
yeah. If you told me that was Russian, I would have believed you.
Mm-hmm. They all have a similar kind of sound and tone to them. But anyway, that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk a little bit of music, a little bit of jamming, a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit of stuff. That's what we do on the Tune Up and Jam podcast.
that's what we do.
We talk about jamming. We talk about gigging. We talk about what else do we talk about? We talk about gear. We talk about
Gear.
learning songs, how to learn songs. That was one of the most recent episodes, was how Francis learned a bunch of songs in a day. Or two. Whatever it was.
That's what we do.
Yeah. So I got something.
Yeah, what do you got?
Okay, well, last week I was called for a gig.
Okay.
On Tuesday, I was called for a gig, and the gig was on Sunday.
Okay.
And it was just like a little kind of, it was a themed kind of country fair down in Orange County. One of these things that were like, crafts and cowboys walking around, and they had like a guy like doing like a hammersmith, whatever, doing like stuff like that.
Typical
with
county fair type stuff.
County fair. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was really small. It's called like a little
Okay.
country fair. And then they had a stage set up, and they had bands throughout the day.
Mhm.
Actually, there was a lot of people there, especially towards the night after it got a little bit, towards the evening and late afternoon, early evening. It got a little bit cooler out, and it was nice. A lot of people there. Anyway, so here's what happened for this gig. I got called, and I wasn't going to turn it down because I had the opportunity to do it. I could do it. All the reasons we say to take gigs
Mhm.
were there, all
Right.
the good reasons.
Okay.
And so I took the gig, and the first thing was I had known this band's, kind of known this band's music. They wanted to do mostly originals, and in the past, the leader of the band who contacted me had sent me one of those Dropbox folders. They have the
With
whole,
the charts?
Yeah, but not the charts, just a Dropbox folder full of the songs.
Oh yeah.
To
yeah.
learn.
the audio files.
Yeah, the audio files.
Yeah.
And there were, I want to say, probably 18 original songs.
Okay.
And I had, when he first sent them to me, he sent them to me maybe over a month ago.
Mhm.
In the plans that eventually I would probably get called for a gig, And so I kind of went through them once, but I had no gig lined up
Mhm.
with them. So I didn't, I didn't listen to them over and over and over and over
Right.
to learn it. I had no reason to.
Right.
And I figured that when he would call me for a gig wouldn't be within days.
Surprise.
Yeah. But I was hip. I was like, okay, I like the guy. He's cool. The songs that I heard, I was like, even if I had to learn these in a pinch,
It's doable,
It's
right?
doable, not
Yeah,
too
yeah, yeah.
difficult. Okay, and by the way, the reason I'm bringing this up, we have talked about in the past, like how to prepare, what things you can do to prepare to get gigs, what to do when you have a gig, how to prepare for gigs. This time I'm going from the angle of what you should do when you offer somebody a gig.
Ah,
Going from that angle. So
Yeah.
I'm going from
yeah, from the other side.
from what I experienced and what the other guy threw at me and how it went about and how I think it could have gone a little bit better.
Yeah, I think this is a good one. It's a good topic.
Yeah. So anyway, I have these 18 or so songs, give or take a couple of songs,
Mhm.
that I've listened to, but I'm not really all that familiar. I don't know. I just listen to them. I go, okay, got it. And so the first thing is I ask him, why don't you send me over a set list and I'll start listening and learn this stuff, and we'll get together if we can. He wanted to rehearse on a Friday. I couldn't rehearse on Friday. I was available Saturday. He wasn't available, so actually we weren't going to rehearse. There wasn't going to be a rehearsal. It was just I
show step up on stage.
Yeah,
and there you go. Been there, done that.
Yeah. So that's fine.
Yeah.
It's whatever. It makes it interesting and challenging and fun, and
Right.
makes you focus. And I like that. I like And so I said, why don't you send me over the set list, because you've always assumed there's going to be a couple of mostly original, but you always assume there's probably going to be a couple of covers anyway. You want to know what covers are going to be there.
Right.
How, do I have to listen to those, or can I kind of shove those aside because I know them already?
Yeah.
And
At least what's in the
you need to know how long we're doing this for. He said it's
Yeah.
going to be about like an hour and a half gig.
Okay.
So, probably tops 3 covers and then maybe 8 to 9 originals, I'm thinking. Maybe 10. And so I sent him over. I said, can you give me a set list? And I didn't get a response. So I'm like, okay. And it took about 36 hours before he gave me a response. And it was, you have the Dropbox folder, right? And I said, yeah. And he says, well, why don't you go through and tell me what songs you want to learn, and then I'll put them on the set list. And you and I and everybody I've ever played with in the past, basically it's been it's not like a written rule, it's an unwritten rule, but if it's your gig that you are offering,
Yes.
you make the set list, you call the shots. Everybody else is basically your employee in a way.
Right.
And they're just waiting for you to, set the rules, what's the set list,
Yeah.
what's
I
the
think
load
it's
in, all the information.
He's
all
taking
that
it to the other extreme where I think he's trying to be considerate
Yeah.
of the short time frame, but it doesn't really help in the end.
No, it actually leaves it way too open.
Right.
Because here I am with 18 songs, knowing they're all originals of his, knowing that there's an hour and a half, and so I got to listen to all these songs to not even play some of them,
Yeah.
And so I immediately sent back. I said, actually, why don't you tell me what songs you want to play out of your originals, and I'll learn them. And he said, okay. And then so he did, but it took another...
We're
it
doing
was
all
like-
18.
Yeah, it was like the next day that I actually got a set list. So by this time, it's like Thursday or maybe even Friday. I think it was actually Friday that I got a list of songs that we were going to play, most likely going to play on Thursday, including Thursday evening. And the gig was Sunday still.
Right.
Although I had started listening to the songs, obviously, a little bit more. Didn't know which ones we were playing, so I was just going through. More than likely, the songs that I was listening to, I started just with number 1, and I'm thinking probably it's going to be in some kind of order like that. So, but I just did the best what I could. I just listened when I could, and got this most probable set list the night later, Thursday evening. Like, okay. And then Friday, I think it was, that I got an actual set list. So I only have basically 2 days to prepare. There were a couple of covers on there, so that was fine.
I'm just curious. How different was the Thursday list to the Friday list?
Not much. The
Okay.
only thing that actually was added, I think, was 1 original and just a couple of covers that I already knew anyway.
Okay.
So it wasn't that big of a deal.
All right.
And so I was able to focus on that. So that's all good. Fine. Not the best way to go about offering this, to ask somebody to learn your music, but whatever. It all works out in the end, and none of it was too terribly difficult. But that was one thing I wanted to bring up to kind of, if you're offering a gig, tell somebody, here's what we want to play. If you're actually asking that person to play with you, you obviously think they can handle what you have to play. So just give it to them. Give it them what you want them to learn, I think.
Yeah, and the
How you
structure, if you're presenting a structured format, it's going to help a lot because it's your mind. What is it called? You get in a frame of mind of how it's going to go and what you need to learn and what you can totally disregard and not waste your time listening.
Right. And you were right. I think he was trying to be very considerate of me and give me kind of the options.
Yeah,
But
this is a case where it actually does the opposite.
The opposite.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
Has
it
the
leaves
opposite
it
effect,
it leaves
yeah.
it too open.
I
And-
agree with you.
Yeah.
I
So,
agree.
well, there's that. Next, getting there. Okay, we live for all those listeners who don't live in the Los Angeles area, because we have thousands and we're gaining more weekly. We live in the Los Angeles area, which is north of Orange County, and this gig was in Orange County. In fact, it was beyond Anaheim. It was near Irvine.
So you're
So-
just a perspective. It's about an hour's drive.
Correct.
About
Just a little over an hour. It's about an hour. And 10
well,
minutes.
it's about an hour's drive without traffic.
Right, right. And there really wasn't any traffic when I went down there.
Okay.
So it's in the Irvine area, but inland from there, because it's kind of like in a canyon. So it's way out. It's like in the middle of this canyon. There's nothing really nearby.
Okay.
That's all fine. I'm not really complaining about any of that, because we all have Google Maps or Waze, whatever you want, whatever your poison is to get around. We all have that. That's not the problem.
Okay.
There were big fires last week, I think it was, down in that area, that same area.
That's right.
And for those of you who aren't from California, we've had a lot of wildfires. And there was a really big wildfire all around this area or nearby where I was going to be playing. It didn't affect it wasn't anywhere near where this festival was, but the roads to get there were affected.
Okay.
One of those roads was a toll road. In fact, there were several toll roads. And the toll road was open. You could see where all the fire had just recently burned. There were still some, areas blocked off. There were still some trucks clearing stuff. I mean, it was fresh. And the Google Maps told me to go on this road. It didn't read that there were any closures or anything like that. Well, the one exit off of this toll road that I needed to take was blocked
Okay.
because of the recent fires. I would have liked to have known this beforehand. Like a way to get there, because this is not an easy place to get to.
Yeah. But to be fair, is that something that this guy would have known?
Yeah, he's from the area.
Oh,
Or he's
okay.
from-
Because I was just about to say
he lives in
yeah.
Orange County. He was there the day before, because it was a 2-day festival, and he was there the day before also.
Yeah.
It would have just been nice to have a heads up, to be
Yeah.
like, you're gonna need to take these roads to get to here. The toll road is great, but not today. That means you're
Basically,
gonna have to. You might have
yeah.
to plan another 30 minutes extra. These kind of things. He knows I live up here.
Right.
No, I'm not angry with him. I don't. I can take care of myself, and I'm actually.
Can you?
Yeah, I can. And I'm actually pretty good. Like, I've learned over the years. Well, everybody, if you want to be responsible and get hired, make sure that you show up nice and early to things.
Right.
And so, like you and I do, we show up nice and early just in case. Just for this exact reason right here.
whether
is
it
one
be
of the
traffic, road closures,
gear problems,
gear problems, yes.
whatever it is, whatever
Yeah,
it is.
exactly.
And luckily, I was running 2 hours early before which is to me still kind of cutting it close. I like to be there around 2 hours early. To
Yeah,
a
well,
gig.
you actually have longer setup times because of
Right.
a drum set too.
Loading in, loading
Yeah,
out. Okay. So I would just like a heads up from something like that, right?
Yeah, I would say especially just because there were some events that were pretty much affecting everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't like it was.
These
Yeah,
were the
just-
headlines. These
Yeah,
are
this
big
was
headlines.
big. They were big. I mean, we could see the smoke from here,
Yeah.
and we're, like you said, about an hour's drive north of where this stuff happened, and near my neighborhood, I could look in the distance and see the smoke in the air.
Yeah.
So these were
So in this
huge.
case too, there's no such thing as too much information.
No,
It's
not when you have toll roads
Yes.
involved, not when you have possible traffic.
Yeah.
When I live already an hour away, there's plenty of things to just kind of give a heads up about.
Yeah,
And-
and I know which toll roads you're talking about because I've gotten a bill where I'd gotten onto a toll road there and not expecting that it was a toll road.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you
that's-
don't even realize when you're actually going on the ramp.
Yeah, that's the other thing that sucks about those toll roads because
Yeah, just down there. Yeah.
it's terrible.
No, I hear you. No, okay.
But I mean, yes, I could have done my own better research, I guess.
I don't
But
know.
I'm not really. I'm not thinking, oh, this area is where the fires were. I don't know that. I thought they were closer to like Anaheim, which they were. They were so big, they were all over the place. That's the problem. So, but you know, I got things
Well,
that
the
I'm
point
doing
is-
too. You know, I
yeah.
can't. You know,
The point is, if it's going to affect your travel to the gig, you know, the one who's doing the hiring should at least should consider the, you know, the what is it, the possible challenges that you're going to run into, especially coming from far away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have liked it. Now,
Yeah, I know.
I'm not angry. I'm not. You know, I'm not saying that. I mean, actually, the gig turned out to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But there's just a couple of things I think it could have been smoother, you know. And luckily, I prepared pretty well. I was early, it's good habits to arrive early to something that, especially the first time I've ever played in this guy's band with him.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you know,
and also, I think it's important to point out too that what you're saying here is that there's a whole purpose of why we're doing this podcast. It's not that you're just sitting here trying to just vent about this particular thing.
Right.
This is actually you're trying to be helpful to bring up these points for anybody, you know, booking gigs or
yeah, because this is a
hiring
real
people.
situation. It's going to
Yeah.
happen again and again and again to other
Yeah.
people, to us again. You know, so these
Yeah.
are just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
If you're offering a gig,
Mhm.
you know, don't forget, you might not think, and I'm sure he didn't think of these things.
Yeah.
He didn't think of, you know, talking about traffic or anything like that. He would assume probably that I could take care of myself, which I did. But it's just nice to know. It's nice if you're hiring somebody first time, you're trying to, you know, he knows that obviously he was trying to be considerate to me by saying, you tell me what songs you want to learn. I mean, he was trying to be considerate to me.
Yeah.
You know, think it's things like that, like traffic or parking situation, you know, the loading in.
Right.
What time should how much in advance do you expect me to be there?
Yeah.
Who do I
these
need
are-
to
yeah.
talk to at the
Exactly.
door to
Who's
get
the
in?
point of contact?
You know,
Yes.
whatever it is. You know, there's
What's
so many
needed,
different things.
yeah.
He did send me the address, and that's
Yeah.
about it. Now, other little things. Tiny thing. Well, kind of a tiny, but not really.
Why don't you just say it and we'll figure
There was another drummer there. He
For
had for this gig.
yes.
So, okay.
Okay, this is getting interesting now.
Yeah. There is a small community of bands or fans of the Grateful Dead.
Okay.
Not very small. Actually, it's a very big community. But some of the bands that I know like to play, you know, some Grateful Dead covers or similar genre type covers. And if you know anything about the Grateful Dead, they had two drummers. They and the Allman Brothers are well known for having two drummers.
Okay.
And some bands like to sometimes throw two drummers together who were in that style. They like to do it. To me, it's interesting. It's more of a shticky thing than anything. I haven't played with
Yeah.
two drummers for a long time. Fine, Grateful Dead did it. Fine, Allman Brothers did it.
Do we need more?
Right, yeah. Do we need to keep doing this? But he apparently asked another drummer who actually is in a Grateful Dead cover band to play that gig also
On a kit.
on a kit.
All right.
And he had told me this, you know, this guy might be there. He hasn't heard from him back yet. He hasn't heard back from him yet. I think even by Saturday, he wasn't sure, but he was thinking he probably would be there, which he
Okay.
also said would perhaps take some pressure off of me, which it's not really how it works. Whether or not there was a drummer there, I still got to know the songs, you know. But
Yeah.
it ends up the other drummer did show up, and there was two of us up on stage playing two kits.
Okay.
So it made it even that much more interesting. Now, I could have gone about it two ways. I could have, one way, been kind of annoyed about this, going, well, what the hell are you calling me for if you have another drummer? It's not necessary, Plus, I don't need somebody to lean on. So, this is kind of like, this is just not, why are we doing it? Why are we doing this? Do you
Okay.
need me? Why'd you call me? Why am I traveling down here over an hour, missing, there's a blocked exit on the toll road, all these things. Why am I doing this if there's already a drummer? I could have gone that way, or I could have gone, hey, what the hell? I like the guy who called me. He is a nice guy. I like him a lot. I'm not trying to criticize him, just pointing out these things, I could have said, yeah, what the hell? I liked him. This is a pretty cool area. It's a neat festival. Let's just go with it. And that's what I did. Okay. I was like, what the hell? I'll just go with it. I haven't played with two drummers since high school.
It's not really your thing.
It's not my thing.
Yeah.
I do remember having fun with it with my buddies who were drummers too. And then, you have some fun, you jam.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, what the hell? We'll do it. Why not? Why not? And it actually turned out to be a lot of fun.
Okay.
So it was
More fun than than you anticipated.
way more fun than I anticipated. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, is this something I want to do all the time? No. I don't want two drummers all the time. But he and I actually locked in quite well on some of the beats. We read each other well. We didn't step on toes. Nobody overplayed. We weren't trying to outplay each other. We
Okay.
found holes, in the beats
Mhm.
to fill in with other sounds, which was totally cool. In some areas was super cool. I didn't want it to stop. So I was
Okay.
like, all right, this is cool, So it turned out to be a really fun gig. I enjoyed it a lot. And I just wanted to bring up a couple of those things that were just kind of awkward, just kind of like kind of chunky that could have been smoothed out a little bit,
Mhm.
And
But to the last point, I think, it was, if his intention was to have two drummers. Obviously, he had two kits there, two full kits.
I think
there.
ideally that's what he wanted.
And so that's how he approached it.
But
so,
when he offered me the gig,
Mhm.
he didn't say, I want to have two drummers. He was just like, can you play on this gig?
Hmm.
He didn't say, we have a gig. I want two drummers. Can you do it? He didn't put it to me like that. As far as I knew, for the first couple of days, before I even knew the set list, or even when I found out the first set list was going to be me, up until I got confirmation that the other drummer was coming, confirmation that he was coming the day of
Okay.
when I arrived, when I got there. He's like, oh, yeah, by the way, he's coming.
And how does that affect your approach? Because you said these are mostly originals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you go into it thinking you have a part. Just like if you were to go in and you have a bass part or a guitar part or a singing part, you got to know your part.
Right.
Well, I'm going into it thinking I got to know my part. I got to know where the breaks are. I got to know the beat. I got to know the tempo. All these things, because
Right.
I'm going to
No, I guess what
holding
I'm
that
saying
together.
is,
But then knowing that there's another drummer. Well, go on.
oh yeah, no. What I was going to say, when it comes to drumming in this context, it's not like the breaks would change.
Right.
Right. Breaks would be for one drummer or both drummers. They're applicable.
Both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm getting to. Like, so how does my mindset change once that I knew that? I think he thought that I would be relieved, relaxed.
I see what you
I
mean.
don't have to. Oh, good. Well, that's going to make things easier for me because I don't have to do so. It doesn't do anything different because, like you said, you still have to know the song. If there's a break, you got to know the break. Where it ends, you got to know how does it end. Is it going to tag? Is it going to fade? What are you going to do? Like, how are we going to do this? What about an intro? Is there a specific intro? Is there a specific riff? Whatever it is,
Who's
you
doing
got to
it?
do it, right? It's got to be played. And if not both drummers play it, one of them's got to play it, and then the other one shouldn't stumble all over the place,
Right.
So it didn't do what he thought it was going to do. It didn't make me like go, oh, okay, well, cool, I got it easy then,
Yeah.
Now I got to start thinking, okay, well, I got to play a part. I don't know how this guy plays. I don't know this other drummer. Sometimes, if you play with another guitarist or whatever,
Well,
you don't know how they
it's
play. You got to
different.
feel each other out. You got to, where's he going to play?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to play really simple, basic beat.
Yeah.
This guy already knows the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he can go off and do more stuff, and I'll just kind of lay back and just keep tempo, keep time, throw a fill in here or there, put a nice little accent on this or whatever, and kind of work my way through it that way. And that's basically what I did until I realized, okay, I see what he's doing. I see what he wants to do. There were times that he would drop his drumsticks and pick up a couple of percussion instruments, and I was carrying the beat. So, I figured out, I read him after a couple of songs, and I was like, okay, I see what's going on here. And so then I was able to do a little bit more rather than just hold back. And by the end of it, I was just really having fun with it.
Right.
Like actually taking my part off of his part, and then also reading the rest of the band.
Right.
So it became a lot of fun, but there was just this, I never really fully knew what the hell was going on until a couple of songs into, like if you take everything into context, from the beginning of learning I had the gig until the time we're playing, I still didn't really know what the hell was going on until about 2 songs in.
Now,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but your last point about another drummer being there, it sounds like that it doesn't, or it wasn't anything that was it's not a complete surprise. Now, the context of what his intention was, like maybe relieving you a little bit of the pressure. Okay, maybe you're not seeing it the same way as he's seeing it. But in the end, it's like you were there, you knew your parts. The other drummer was there. You guys had fun. It was a great experience overall.
Totally a lot of fun. I'm just picking out things to talk about for the podcast, Francis.
Yeah. No. I guess what I mean is, there's a lot of, especially when you get called for a last minute gig, there's a lot of elements you don't know, and there are a lot of elements that you don't have a choice but to adjust on the spot. Right.
Right.
It's just like, for example, okay, I've done last minute gigs, on guitar. Yeah, and then if there's another guitar player there, it's that same thing. It's like, okay, what's his role? Because you haven't rehearsed, you're just basically walking on stage for the first time together. And so you're kind of hearing what's his typical role, because this is the normal, let's say a regular member of the band,
Yeah.
But I'm just saying there's so many things that on the spot, you'd have to adjust. So I mean, it sounds like it was a good challenge, and it worked out in the end.
Yeah. It was
as
great.
far as, but going back to, let's just say the other points of what would have made it better going into the gig, and I see those as like stronger points of maybe having a set list prepared as early as possible for you. Perhaps the logistics of the gig, of getting to the gig, and who to contact, load in times, all that stuff is
Parking,
something that, exactly. To me, all those stuff should be addressed without exception, to be to reflect the most professional way it could be handled.
Right.
That last part, it seemed a little bit more open.
Last part.
The third part, your point about like having another drummer there. Yeah, it seemed a little bit more open, because number one, I mean, you were there, you had prepared enough to carry the gig.
Yeah.
Now this other drummer being there, now it just adds another, interesting element, creative element.
Yeah, it's just going about, okay, well, this is something I haven't done. I wasn't uncomfortable at any point with that.
Right.
It was okay. Well, I didn't even know the guy either. I knew who he was.
Yeah.
And I think he knew who I was, but we never played together. We never met each other. So it was,
But I guess I'm taking it to the point of, if in this conversation you were to tell other people how something could have gone smoother when you're hiring somebody, the last element, it seems a little bit open-ended, whereas he mentioned the possibility of another drummer, didn't get confirmation till later, but it's still a very doable situation.
Right. Well, put it this way. On my side of it, that wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like the other drummer, my side of it, whether the other drummer was there or not, I was mentally prepared, and I was like, it's fine, whatever. That could be cool. It wasn't anything to really get, any kind of annoyance over, and nothing. It was just kind of like, I actually probably looked forward to it in a way, But I would just say, with all of the elements that I talked about, I just would like it to be more concrete, definitive
Yeah.
information
Yeah. For sure.
about everything. And if he's going to have another drummer, just tell me, is there going to be another drummer? If there's not, I mean, that's the
Yeah.
least of it.
Yeah.
But if there is, just let me know. I mean, if you don't know, you don't know. That's fine. But when it comes with everything else that you're not really telling me either, it's just
Yeah.
another thing that's kind of nebulous.
I think that's brings the point home. Is it's not just this one thing. It's a combination of all the other elements were handled in a way that perhaps could have been a little bit more
A little too cloudy.
structured. Yeah, a little bit more concrete. Yeah,
Yeah,
I hear ya.
that's exactly right. So,
I hear you.
but
Now-
no gripes or animosity over it or anything like that.
Oh,
These
yeah,
are
yeah.
just things that I think could have been done or handled better,
Oh yeah,
and I
Yeah.
think would be good for anybody who's out there going to hire somebody to
Mhm.
do a gig. That just things to consider.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. Now, being
And
now-
you make the set list.
yeah,
If you get the gig, you make the set list.
yeah.
Even if you're the drummer and you don't care about keys, and that's actually fun because then everybody else has to
right
go
Good
along
job.
with it. God damn it! Why would you put this key next to that key?
That's right. In fact, there was one gig we had a few months ago that
Yeah,
you
I did the
had
set.
the gig.
Yeah.
You basically came up with the set list,
Yeah.
or at least the list of songs or that were our options.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, we just have to figure it out.
Yeah, just gonna go
Yeah.
with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can't leave it too open ended. You can't be too considerate when you're hiring other people. If it's your gig, you should know what your band, or at least what you're trying to accomplish with your band.
Yeah, and
You
just
know.
take charge. And it's
Yeah,
just a
take
lot
charge.
easier for somebody who's just coming in.
Yeah.
I know you want them to feel comfortable and you don't want to put too much pressure on them, but it does nice to have a structure. It does feel nice to have a structure.
So you wouldn't mind doing another 2-drummer situation?
No, not at all. It was actually fun. I would not want to make it a regular thing,
Yeah.
but it reminded me of, I've been in percussion ensembles. I've
Mhm.
been in a marching band where there were several drummers. I've played with 2 drum sets with one of my best friends growing up. So I've done that kind of stuff before, and it kind of brought me back to those, just having fun with your buddies, kind of jamming. So it was interesting. It was a lot of fun.
Well, that's kind of like how I feel like on bass.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, jamming with friends. It's always fun to play
Yeah.
with friends. And if my role is going to be on bass, sure, but I don't want to make it too much of a regular thing.
Yeah, and if you go back to all the reasons to take a gig, it kind of like
Yeah.
it was like almost like a bonus, like the experience part of
Yeah,
having a
yeah.
gig, and it was like re-experiencing playing with like another drummer, but it wasn't percussion. It was a drum set,
full drum set.
I mean, he had other percussion toys and stuff,
Yeah.
but it was just I don't know. I had a lot of fun with it.
Oh,
so-
I think that's
it
an
was cool.
interesting. I think there are good points to bring up for
Yeah.
sure.
Now, the other thing, this is a short one that it still relates to that gig.
Uh huh.
But I remember when we were talking about you learning all those songs, how
Yeah.
you approached it.
Yeah.
One thing that I wrote down how I approached it
Uh huh.
was, okay, you know what a mnemonic device is?
Yeah.
So if anybody doesn't know what a mnemonic device is, first of all, it begins with an M. M-N. M-N.
If you ever want to look it up, you have to spell it right.
Mnemonic. That's how it's called. But it's just something that helps you remember something else. So, for instance, if you wanted to remember the names of the Great Lakes, do you know what the mnemonic device is to remember the Great Lakes? The names of the Great Lakes?
No, I never learned that.
So, do you know the Great Lakes?
I know some of them.
Some, you know,
There's
how
only
many-
5, right?
There's 5 of them. Yeah.
Yeah. See, look at that.
Okay. Now I'm
Look at
going to
that-
teach
look at that
you.
retention
I'm
there.
going to teach you how to remember all of it. Can you name one of them?
Yeah, like Michigan,
Okay.
just like Erie,
Yeah.
and I don't know.
Okay. So if you
I
can
mean,
remember the word homes, Homes,
Mhm.
can you figure them out now? Homes,
Ontario.
Ontario is one of them.
Yeah. See, it's
Uh-huh.
yeah. All right. We can move on.
S.
S. What is S? God,
Huh?
I'm really bad now.
Okay, so H, Huron.
See,
Lake Huron?
you know what? I've heard that,
Yeah.
but never committed
Okay,
that to
but
memory.
that's it. H, O, Ontario, M, Michigan, E, Erie, S, Superior.
Superior, of course.
Homes. Yeah. And so it's a
Ah,
device
okay.
to help you remember things.
Yeah.
There's plenty of them out there. Teachers use them all the time. You use them for, if you use them for learning music, every good bird does fly. Every good boy does find. Those are the lines of the triple clef.
Or
Right?
empty garbage before dad flips. Did you hear that one? It's an alternative to Every Good Boy Does Fine.
Okay.
Empty garbage before dad flips.
That's a good one too. Hey, whatever works, right?
right.
And then there's face for the
Face.
for the spaces. So
And the-
those are go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Ace G.
Ace G, yeah,
For
for the
bass-
bass
for the bass
clef. Yeah. And I think Bird. Wait, what is the one for the bass clef lines? Oh, well, all cows eat grass also.
Oh, yeah.
All
of
cows
course.
eat grass.
Yeah.
And so then there's so then it goes. God, I didn't learn bass clef. Good boys do deserve.
Oh,
no, I
good
can't-
boys do fine always.
Yeah, good birds do fly always.
Good.
Good birds do fly always, right? Or good boys do
Do
fine
fine
always.
always,
Okay,
yeah.
both of them. Yeah. Okay.
See-
Anyway,
It's funny because now we're trying to remember that, but in practical use, it's like we've moved beyond that.
yeah.
And we just see it for what it is.
Yeah.
But okay, so going back to learning.
So anyway, yeah. Those are
Mnemonic devices.
mnemonic devices. Well, I was
Yeah.
thinking when I was listening to try to learn some of these original songs, I would try to go through my bank of songs in my head,
Mhm.
just any song that kind of reminded me of that original song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
So I would make a note and say, oh, this kind of reminds me of what's that song, Volcano by
Damien Rice.
no
It's Volcano's the only volcano.
Margaritaville guy. Oh my God,
Oh, Jimmy Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett. Yeah,
Oh.
you know the song goes, I don't know.
Oh,
you know
okay,
that song.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I was like, okay, the song kind of reminds me of that song. I think the name of that song is called Volcano.
I don't remember.
And so that's why I wrote my notes. So I didn't really have to remember the main beat very much because it reminded me of that.
Yeah,
There was another
really.
one that reminded me of Cheap Sunglasses by ZZ Top. Like, if you listen to it, you might not hear it, but I heard it.
Yeah.
So
That's really helpful for a drummer establishing feel.
yeah, exactly.
no, I
That's
get
what it was
that.
about. It was the feel. Because there was
Yeah.
like, okay, there was a bass line. The one I said sounded like Cheap Sunglasses. Well, if you know,
Yeah.
Cheap Sunglasses has kind of like that rumble. And I heard that. And then there was like a ride feel to it.
Okay.
And the tempo and just had that bass kind of beat
Yeah.
that went with that established that feel. Exactly. So I would write those down in my notes. Just say, okay, think of this. And plus, you don't necessarily have to remember the name of the title of the song when you do that. So you know how sometimes you're looking at like the title of this song, you have to remember it goes with this sound. That song sounds like this. The title, whatever title it is, how does that go again? You mix them up with the different
Yeah.
title. Well, if you give it a name, if you give
An
it
alternative.
an alternative,
Yeah.
what sounds like this or reminds me of this song, you go, okay, that's the song. Okay,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about that so much.
Yeah.
So I think that's a point out there that I wanted to share.
No, I think that's a very good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, as learning guitar and bass parts, I typically, unless it's a very specific riff or groove, I don't have to really resort to that because the drummer is already, covering most of the feel and the bass. So yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, it just helped me a whole lot, so I didn't have to remember what the title sounded like, what that song sounds like. And then one last thing,
What you got?
also based on that
Uh-huh.
same gig.
Yeah, this was a very informative gig for you.
It was, and I was taking a lot of mental notes. You could tell.
Good. No, I like that, and I'm sure the
So-
listeners appreciate it.
There was a band that was on before us. They were really good. It
Okay.
was a lot of fun to listen to them
Mhm.
and watch them. It has nothing to do with that band other than like it wasn't so much, it was just in general. Getting up and getting off of stage when there's a band change
Yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
such, I don't know why musicians can't figure out a more effective way of doing it, but it's never effective. And there's always 75 people on stage moving 300 pieces of gear. And this stage wasn't small. It wasn't huge, but it wasn't a tiny stage. But no matter what size the stage is, there's 7 more people on stage that needs to be there, moving
Yeah.
equipment around in no direction or all directions. And so that there's nothing but a cluster on stage. and it just takes that much longer to get set up and ready. And it's one way on, one way off, steps up, steps down. Sorry, I'll step aside, you step aside. I got this amp. It's just all over. There's no structure to it at all.
Yeah, for the most part.
How do we? What is the best way to get around that?
I mean, as a typical rule, I mean, and for most stages, at least the ones that we've played, it really should be band needs to come off before you can fully load. Otherwise, you're just getting in the way. That's really what it is. So, but here's the other thing, though. The band that's leaving the stage needs to have their system, needs to have their shit together. You know, they have to have a protocol or a system to quickly break down and get it off. You don't wrap cables on stage. You know, you unplug, you gather everything, you haul it off backstage, and then you could organize it however. You don't pack it up on stage.
No.
The first thing you need to do, and really your only thing you need to do, is get off the stage with your gear.
Yeah, and I don't. You said that as the band needs to do it. I think every individual musician needs to think this way. Not just the band has to have a policy or something like that. Like every individual musician needs to think, as soon as you're done, as a courtesy, when you know that there's a band coming up on stage, get off. Get your stuff off stage.
Yeah,
set it aside. Get it out of the way for people coming up onto the stage. Move it aside. You can take care of it. You can take as long as you want to tear it down, wrap stuff up, pull down your,
off stage.
Off stage. You can take down the stands.
Yeah.
You can do everything.
You had your time in the spotlight.
Yep.
Now you're only going to take away from the next person,
Yeah.
the next band.
I can get my drums off stage. If nobody's in my way, I can get my drums off stage probably in 90 seconds.
Yeah.
On the stage I was on,
Yeah.
is a pretty big stage with steps and everything, still 90 seconds. Smaller stages, even quicker.
Mhm.
Just get it off the stage, get it out of the way, and then you can take care of it.
Yeah, and as a guitarist and bassist, I mean, I have a system down. I can get off so quickly. But it's important that I'm not sitting there waiting to get off stage because people are climbing on stage trying to do their thing.
Right.
You know, so both bands have to be considerate.
Well, that's what we need to get to next is the guys coming up on stage.
Yeah.
Let the guys get off stage.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Let them get up. Stay out of their way. Let them get out. And, once they're completely out, there you go.
We know you're in a hurry to get on stage.
Now, here's the thing. The exceptions...
Help us help you.
Right. And here's the thing. When I've seen that not go the way we're talking about it, it's because somebody on stage has not... They haven't left, or they still have a gear lingering on stage, or they didn't have a system to quickly get off stage, so they're still unwrapping cables and stuff. In that case, I get it. The other band needs their setup time, and so sometimes they get on there. But really, if everybody had their systems together to get off the stage very quickly, with the other band allowing them to get off the stage, making room, everything will be much smoother.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect world. We're just saying things to help the process.
And I think maybe this is just coming from a selfish standpoint. The drummer should be allowed to set up first. See, we would have our stuff if you're the next band up, and it's going to be a quick kind of up, one band on, one band off. You're going to have your stuff set up already off stage, just ready to come up on stage. I think the drummer should set up first because, first of all, we're in the back. 99.9999% of the time, we're in the back. So if people are putting amps and keyboards and stuff like that up, it's much more difficult for us to walk around that with all of our equipment that's already set up. Just needs to be put down.
I have no problem with that.
For efficacy, it should be let the drummer put his stuff in the back first.
I don't want any bass drum being, any bass drum falling on my pedal board.
Right.
On my amp. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
So
here's the thing. I have no problem with that because I have my own system to quickly get on and quickly get off.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter.
But you know what? I mean, that's the thing. You and me and Chris, we're kind of rare when it comes to things like that. We have these systems and we can get up and off. But what we're talking about, and this allow the band to get off, let the drummer go, whatever, all these things that would make things more efficient would actually give you more time to play.
Yeah.
If the band before you got off quickly and efficiently, and you got on stage quickly and efficiently, you will probably, possibly at least, have enough for an extra song. If there's certain time, like you might have some extra time to play more if you just did this. But the thing is, I just don't think it's ever going to happen.
No,
it's not going to ever happen.
Here's the thing: it's not a perfect situation, but you can always try. And if one other musician, benefits from being considerate, and it could just keep spreading, So maybe in another episode we can talk a little more in detail about how we approach it and specifically what do we do to help the situation. But no, I think these are really good points to bring up.
I thought so. I was like, this is a great. All these things that are happening today is. I was actually
in the gig.
I mean, even though it affected slightly just my preparation and everything for the gig, but I was like, this is good because I can definitely talk about this, and this would be a good thing to talk about for the next episode in a few days.
Yeah,
so it was all fresh and it came out nicely.
I agree.
I saw Chris over the weekend too.
Yeah.
He almost was going to be able to make it tonight.
Gotta get him
He
on.
was looking at. He showed me his calendar. Oh my god, dude!
It's crazy, huh?
Yeah, right now he's just so packed.
We'll get him on.
We will.
We need him back.
Yeah, we need him and we want him back.
Yeah.
He's one of the co-founders of this.
Yeah.
He should be here.
Do we want him back? We just need him.
Well,
we don't even want him.
Well,
as long as he's just in the room, the presence is good enough.
Yeah, I don't really miss his farting so much.
Anyways, so we decided to just throw all of our episodes on YouTube as well. We haven't done that in the past.
YouTube.
So if anyone wants to go back, and if you're browsing YouTube, which I know I am all the time, if you feel like it, look up one of our episodes, our past episodes, and
we have 27 past episodes at this point.
Yeah, I think I loaded all of them up at one time, so they all have 0 views. So
let's get that number up a little bit higher.
It doesn't matter, because we've been.
It hurts our self-esteem to see a big old goose egg up there.
It doesn't matter because we still have our website tuneupandjam.com. We're on iTunes as well and many other podcast outlets. Just spread the word.
Look for us on Twitter. You're gonna be more active. Yeah,
look us up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, any way you want to. We appreciate it. If you want to send an email directly to us, it's podcast@tuneupandjam.com.
Yeah, I would love to hear your experiences too. If you have any experiences with anything we've talked about, gigging, learning songs, getting up and off stage, frustrations with second drummers, or anything like that, email us or give us some feedbacks. Anything like that. It's great.
All right. Sounds good.
That's it. Episode 28.
Signing off.
Oh.
Bye.